Few skiers seek speed where the margin disappears. Jeremy Heitz is one of them. In 2016, he skied a 50-degree face above Zermatt at highway speeds while filming Valais. Born in Les Maricots in 1989, he grew up among steep Swiss terrain, not far from some of the Alps' most serious faces. Years later, he would chase 15 4,000-meter peaks in 2 seasons. Then he pushed the same fast, fluid style onto 6,000-meter faces in the Andes and Karakoram. Let's follow how a resort kid ended up skiing big mountain walls at racing speed. Jeremy Heitz was born in 1989 in Les Maricots, a small village in the Swiss canton of Valais. He started skiing at 3 on his home mountain, lapping the Seine runs winter after winter. Early on, he followed the classic alpine racing pathway, learning controlled, high-speed turns on groomed pistes. Those years built the technical base that later kept him stable on much steeper slopes. The mountains around his village were far steeper than his racecourses, always looming above the resort. That contrast soon became part of his trajectory. The big faces were waiting just above the lifts. As a teenager, Heitz was drawn off the racecourse and into freeride lines around Valais. Around 17, he became the youngest ever forerunner on the Bec des Roses in Verbier, a famously exposed freeride world tour venue. That face is known for rock bands, mandatory airs, and sustained pitch that punishes mistakes. Being asked to open it meant laying clean, fast tracks down a competition venue without chasing a score or podium. The run showed how his race speed translated to dangerous terrain under real pressure. It pointed him toward bigger, more exposed big mountain freeride lines. That face offered no room for hesitation. In his early 20s, Heitz shifted from alpine racing toward full-time freeriding, training and filming with the Falket brothers in Switzerland. Their focus was on fluid lines, high speed and minimal side slipping, even on rough snow. Freeride contests gave him structured goals and international venues, but his riding already favored wide, fast arcs over stop and go jump hits. His lines looked like downhill racing dropped onto freeride faces, not cautious hop turns. The steeper the face, the more his background became an advantage. That mix carried him onto the international freeride circuit. His race turns now ran down far steeper, bigger walls. Between 2014 and 2016, Heitz climbed the rankings of the Freeride World Tour. In 2014, he finished 3rd overall. In 2015, he moved to 2nd. In 2016, he ranked 9th. These results showed consistent performance on technical venues under tight time windows and judging formats, yet judge runs did not fully reward the continuous, top-to-bottom speed he preferred. Contest faces, while serious, were still limited in vertical drop compared with the biggest alpine walls he saw in guidebooks. That gap between format and style quietly grew in importance. The next objective would not involve judges. Around the mid-2010s, Heitz launched La Liste, a 2-year film project targeting 15 of the steepest 4,000-meter peaks in the Alps. The idea was simple and severe. Ride classic steep faces, often over 50 degrees, like big freeride lines rather than slow mountaineering descents. The list ran between Zermatt and Chamonix and included icons like the Matterhorn, Lenzspitze, and Zinnalrathorn, already famous in alpinism. He would need solid weather windows, stable snow, and precise timing, with whole seasons shaped around a few key days. Guidebook names slowly turned into a concrete, non-negotiable checklist. Each summit became a single-line item. During the first Lally seasons, Heitz focused on 4,000 ers he already knew from the Alps. Faces like Lenzspitze and the Zinnalrathorn offered long continuous panels with gradients over 50 degrees. Instead of cautious, jump-turn skiing, He aimed for fast, arcing turns at speeds above 100 kilometers per hour, with some reports citing peaks closer to 120. Those speeds on that angle meant any loss of edge grip could be fatal, leaving almost no chance to recover. Each descent demanded precise snow assessment, strict timing, and total line commitment from start to finish. Success on these early peaks encouraged even bolder objectives. Speed itself became a measurable piece of the risk. One of the most visible steps in Valais was taking this approach to peaks like the Matterhorn. These mountains already had a long history in alpinism and steep skiing, but not at this kind of velocity and continuity. The team had to coordinate access, climb routes, and position support while waiting for firm, edgeable snow that could handle high speed. At over 4,000 meters, weather shifts and surface changes could come quickly and without warning. The faces stayed around 50 degrees over long vertical drops, with exposure visible in every meter of the line. Bringing racing-style speed here turned historical routes into something new. Old routes were skied in a new rhythm. Released in 2016, Valais presented these 15 steep descents as a concentrated project rather than isolated one-offs. Screenings and online releases highlighted how unusual it was to ski so fast on such sustained gradients, especially on well-known peaks. Some coverage described the film as redefining steep skiing and opening a new frontier in freeriding, language that echoed across ski media and festivals. European touring events brought Heitz, the director and steep skiing pioneers, together to present the film and discuss future projects on stage. The response proved his approach resonated and set up a return home. The question became where to take that speed next. After Valais, Heitz also turned the camera back to his roots. In the short film Once Upon a Time, he revisited Les Maricotte, tracing 22 years of skiing on his home resort. The project contrasted local lifts and side-country terrain with his later big mountain lines, placing both in one continuous story. It underlined how much of his style came from lapping the same slopes in all conditions and weather patterns. The film documented continuity rather than escalation, linking childhood turns to later descents on serious peaks and showing the foundation behind later risks. That background would soon feed directly into far higher, remoter objectives. The same turns were about to move to higher ranges. For the sequel, Valais 2, Everything or Nothing, Heitz partnered closely with Sam Anthamatten. Instead of staying in the Alps, they targeted big faces in the Andes and the Karakoram, some above 6,000 meters. The idea was to export the same fast, fluid skiing to much higher altitudes, where thinner air and longer approaches increased the margin for error. Logistics became more complex, involving expeditions, permits, and acclimatization. The snowpack and weather patterns were far less familiar than at home in Switzerland, demanding more cautious timing. The project scaled up both vertical drop and day-to-day uncertainty. Altitude joined steepness as a constant factor. In the Andes segments, the team aimed at long, glaciated faces in Peru and elsewhere, often above 5,500 meters. Access involved multi-day approaches and limited rescue options compared with European resorts or heli-drops. Even basic tasks like climbing, filming, or preparing to ski were slower in the thin air. The faces still needed firm, stable snow to ski with speed, which meant waiting for narrow windows between storms and heat. If conditions broke down mid-descent, escape lines were scarce and difficult to reach. High camps and long approaches added strain before anyone clicked into their bindings. Every decision carried more consequences at that height. Valais 2, Everything or Nothing, was completed around 2020 and released more widely in 2021, first through selected cinema tours. Pandemic restrictions limited screenings and delayed broader distribution, muting the initial public impact compared with the first film and forcing changes to premiere plans. Once it reached online platforms, viewers could see the high-altitude lines along with the documented accident in full context. Coverage noted both the impressive descents and the ethical questions surrounding extreme expedition filming and acceptable risk. The film extended his reputation beyond the Alps under closer and more complex scrutiny. Debate grew alongside the bigger, higher peaks on screen. By the early 2020s, media profiles and features often described Heitz as having rewritten or pushed the history of steep skiing. Articles highlighted gradients over 50 degrees, speeds above 100 kilometers per hour, and descents on multiple continents, framing them as a benchmark within the sport. Some reporting focused on the limits of acceptable risk as projects ventured into higher, remoter mountains with fewer safety nets. He remained closely linked to the Valais films and their signature style of fast, committed lines on big faces. That combination of speed, steepness, and exposure became a reference point in big mountain freeskiing. His benchmark lines continued to frame what pushing it looks like. Over time, Jeremy Heitz's path has moved from local resort racing to 4,000-meter alpine walls and then to 6,000-meter expedition faces, while keeping the same emphasis on speed and clean arcs. The constraints have grown: steeper gradients, higher altitudes, thinner margins, and complex logistics on every project. Within those limits, his projects have shifted how steep skiing is documented, discussed, and practically attempted, while preserving the basic turn shape that started in Lethmaracote. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next.